Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Afghan security forces have killed a senior Al-QAEDA leader, Abu Mohsen al-Masari, during an operation in the Ghazni province. Al-Masari was on the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation's most wanted terrorist list. Meanwhile, the toll from Saturday's blast outside an educational center in Kabul has risen to 30. The United Nations says a treaty to ban nuclear weapons has been ratified. The UN chief spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said 50 countries have signed the treaty and will come into force in 90 days. Dujarric said that the treaty represents the United Nations commitment to eliminate all nuclear weapons. Turkey says it's extending a gas exploration mission in the eastern Mediterranean until November 4th. The move has raised hackles in neighboring Greece. Both the countries claim hydrocarbon sources in the region. In Yemen, the Saudi-led coalition says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthis. State media says that the drone was aimed at Saudi Arabia's southern region. This comes after Houthis said that they target Jizan and Abha airports and the Khamis Mushaid base in Saudi Arabia with drones. For more detailed news, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Afghan security forces have killed a senior Al-QAEDA leader, Abu Mohsen al-Masari, in a special operation in the Ghazni province. The National Directorate of Security says al-Masri was the supreme leader of the organization in the Indian subcontinent. Al-Masri was on the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation's most wanted terrorist list. The FBI said he also went by the name Hussam Abdul Roth and was an Egyptian national. In a statement, the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center called al-Masri's killing a major setback to Al-QAEDA. Meanwhile, the toll from Saturday's blast outside an educational center in Kabul has risen to 30. Officials said that over 70 people were injured in the suicide attack. U.S. envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has called for a reduction in violence by all sides to secure a ceasefire. He also confirmed the deaths of 12 children in a government airstrike in the Takhar province. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says France is creating radicalization by encouraging display of blasphemous cartoons. The Prime Minister accused the French President Emmanuel Macron of ignorance and creating more hate and Islamophobia. Khan said by attacking Islam, Macron has hurt the sentiments of millions of Muslims across the world. Meanwhile, France has recalled its ambassador in Turkey for consultations. This came after Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan said Macron needs mental treatment over his attitude towards Muslims and Islam. Turkey says it is extending a gas exploration mission in the eastern Mediterranean until November 4th. The move has raised hackles in neighboring Greece. It said 3 research vessels will continue to work in the area south of the Greek island Rhodes. An earlier notice had said that these ships would be operating in the area until Tuesday, October 27th. NATO members Turkey and Greece are locked in a dispute over the extent of their continental shelves. Both the countries claim hydrocarbon resources in the eastern Mediterranean. The United Nations says a treaty to ban nuclear weapons has been ratified. UN chief spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said 50 countries signed the treaty and it will come into force in 90 days. Dujarric said that the treaty represents the United Nations commitment to eliminate all nuclear weapons. He said that the accord is a tribute to the survivors of nuclear explosions and tests. The 50th signature came on the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the United Nations. The treaty requires all ratifying countries to never develop, test, produce, and possess nuclear weapons. Japan says it has decided not to sign the treaty in consideration of its security ties with the United States. In Yemen, the Saudi-led military coalition says that it has destroyed another explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthis. This comes just a few hours after the coalition said it intercepted a Houthi drone aimed at the kingdom. State media says that the drone was destroyed before it hit Saudi Arabia's southern region. Earlier, Houthis said that they targeted Saudi Arabia's Jizan and Abha airports and the Khamis Mushayt base with drones. Cross-border attacks by Yemeni rebels have escalated since May, when a truce prompted by the pandemic expired. In late June, missiles reached the Saudi capital, Riyadh, and the coalition retaliated with airstrikes. In Cameroon, gunmen have killed 8 children and wounded dozens of others in an attack on a school in the Anglophone southwest region. Kumba City Sub-Prefect Ali Anglo said that the gunmen came on motorbikes around midday. He said many children were injured after jumping from the second story of the school in an attempt to escape. The officials said that the attack was conducted by the separatist insurgents who seek to break away from the state in the west. Last year, officials blamed separatists for kidnapping dozens of school children. Over in the United States, President Donald Trump has voted in person in the battleground state of Florida. This marks the first time an incumbent president has voted in person in the swing state. More on this report.
U.S. President Donald Trump and his rival Joe Biden have hit swing states with just 10 days until election on November 3rd. Trump voted in West Palm Beach, followed by a trio of appearances in North Carolina, Ohio, and Wisconsin. He has joined more than 53 million Americans who cast early ballots ahead of election.
Any complications in there?
No, not much. It was a very secure vote. Much more secure than when you send in a ballot, I can tell you that. Everything was perfect, very strict, right by the rules. When you send in your ballot, could never be like that. Could never be secure like that. They've done a fantastic job over here. Great people inside.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden addressed supporters in Pennsylvania and warned of a dark winter ahead unless the country changed its ways. Biden lambasted Trump's attempts to contain COVID-19, which has claimed lives of 224,000 Americans so far.
We have 10 days left. It may come down to Pennsylvania. And I believe in you. I believe in my state. The choice has never been clearer and the stakes have never been higher. So it's time to stand up. Let's take back our democracy now. We can do this. There's nothing we cannot do. God bless you all.
While Biden leads Trump nationally, opinion polls show a closer race in crucial battleground states, which will decide the election.
People in Chile are set to vote in a referendum on drafting a new constitution. 15 million people are heading to the polls in South American country's first referendum. If the plebiscite is approved, Chileans will vote in April to elect the commission that will write the new constitution. Recent polls show 70% of the country's population is in favor of a new constitution. Massive anti-government protests demanding equality last year prompted the vote. But concerns still remain that a new constitution may not be enough to calm the protests and demand for greater equality in the country. Belarus says that it is ready to jointly fight external threats with Russia. The Russian state media said Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko spoke to the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a call. Quoting Belarus state television, they said Lukashenko told Pompeo that Russia does not interfere in their internal affairs. The United States Department confirmed Pompeo's call. In a statement, it said Pompeo reaffirmed the United States' support for the democratic aspirations of the people of Belarus. They said Pompeo called for the immediate release of U.S. citizen Vitaly Shikelyarov, wrongfully detained by Belarus. Lukashenko is holding on to power despite major protests in recent weeks, calling for him to resign. The United States has recorded its highest daily COVID-19 cases for a second day, as over 94,000 people have tested positive overnight. India has registered 578 deaths and over 50,000 infections overnight, while the caseload is nearing 7.9 million. Globally, the coronavirus has claimed over 1.1 million lives and infected 42.5 million people so far. More on this report.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to spread, making new daily records and infecting thousands. In Latin America, Chile has identified more than 500,000 cases of COVID-19 since the outbreak began in March. But restaurants and bars have opened with limited capacity as office workers return and some schools also reopen. The U.S. top infectious disease expert warns the resurgence in COVID-19 cases show the pandemic remains a global challenge.
Yesterday, we had 83,000 cases in the United States, which is the most we've ever had on a single day, even at the very worst part of the outbreak. And if you look at the map of the European Union and Italy and France and Spain and the UK, the same thing is happening there. They're having a resurgence of cases.
The streets and squares of Athens have become empty after a curfew was imposed to contain the virus. While in Rome, scuffles broke out between police and the people who were trying to break a recently implemented curfew. Italy's tally of confirmed COVID-19 cases have surpassed 500,000, with more than 200,000 of them still under treatment. France has reported record 45,000 new cases and 138 deaths in the past 24 hours. Doctors in France have warned that the hospitals are becoming overwhelmed.
Unfortunately, the number of COVID-19 patients is increasing, and it is expected that probably in mid-November we'll have 100% of all our beds saturated by COVID-19.
Australia's COVID-19 epicenter, Victoria State, has delayed the easing of lockdown restrictions due to an outbreak in Melbourne. Meanwhile, China has reported 15 new imported COVID-19 cases on the mainland.
The new coronavirus has claimed 9 more lives in Pakistan overnight, raising the death toll to 6,736. The health ministry says 832 people tested positive for the disease in the past 24 hours. The ministry said there are over 10,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It's said out of over 327,000 countrywide cases, more than 310,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said over 143,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported over 102,000 cases. In the capital, Islamabad, nearly 19,000 have been infected so far. International human rights groups have urged Bangladeshi authorities to end harassing rights defenders. In a joint statement, the rights group said Bangladeshi intelligence officers have privately visited the activists' family members. They said the officers pressured the activists to stop publicly criticizing the government. The groups also slammed Bangladesh for failing to comply with its international obligations to uphold fundamental rights. They said that the government is conducting widespread crackdowns on journalists and activists. In the United States of Colorado, the ongoing wildfire has claimed lives of an elderly couple. This comes as winds continue to fan the second largest blaze in the state's history. Authorities issue evacuation orders to the residents of the Eastern Estates Park. The order comes as wind gusts are pushing 191,000-acre fire towards east. Fire Incident Commander said firefighters are battling to contain the blaze aggressively. He expressed hope that a winter storm overnight will aid the containment. Livingstone said that the fire was probably caused by a human, but the investigation is still not complete. And now for a short break. Welcome back. In Vietnam, the death toll from landslides, floods, and other natural disasters triggered by rains has risen to 130. The Central Steering Committee for Natural Disaster Prevention and Control said another 18 people are missing. The deaths were mainly reported in the provinces of Quang Tri, Tua Thin Hu, and Quang Nam. The committee mentioned that the floods damaged 9,300 hectares of crops. It said that the disasters disrupted traffic on several highways. The Philippines government has evacuated nearly 1,800 people in the wake of a tropical storm, MOLAVE. National Weather Report Bureau issued a tropical cyclone wind alert for several provinces in the Bicol and Calabar zone regions. The Bureau said that the storm is expected to make landfall while crossing the southern Luzon area. It said that MOLAVE is expected to continue intensifying over the South China Sea and possibly reach typhoon category by Tuesday evening. The Disaster Monitoring Agency has canceled sea travel operations as 662 people were stranded at ports due to the strong winds. It said 532 families were preemptively evacuated to temporary shelters in the Bicol provinces. The chairman of one of the world's biggest conglomerates, Samsung, has passed away in South Korea. Lee Kun-hee, age 78, was hospitalized for 6 years after a heart attack. In a statement, the company called the chairman Lee a true visionary who transformed Samsung into the world-leading innovator. Lee inherited the chairmanship of the Samsung Group in 1987. Under Lee's leadership, Samsung rose to become the world's biggest technology firm by revenue. Hong Kong travelers boarded a flight to nowhere to enjoy a bird's-eye view of the city before flying straight back home. This is the latest travel trend to give people a glimpse of normality during the COVID-19 pandemic. More on this. The new coronavirus pandemic has slammed travel operations worldwide and hit the hospitality sector. With the aviation industry in deep crisis, several carriers have had to come up with creative ways to raise cash. In Hong Kong, an Airbus 320 with 100 passengers on board flew within 200 nautical miles in the southeast direction. Passengers got a top view from the window sightseeing over the South China Sea and some of Hong Kong's iconic city views.
Because you will never have to fly from Hong Kong to Hong Kong because of COVID-19. That's the only chance you can fly from Hong Kong to Hong Kong.
The flight themed Embrace Hong Kong had sold out in 30 minutes, with tickets costing between $110 and $153. Meanwhile, with few allowed to travel in and out of Singapore due to COVID-19 restrictions, hundreds have flocked to the airport to eat airplane food at a pop-up restaurant on board an A380 jet.
There's more than enough food and, of course, a beautiful beverage selection accompanying that through the experience today. So, looking forward to bringing some Singapore Airlines hospitality back, back to the sky. But we're on the ground, obviously. But the 380 dining experience will be a wonderful, wonderful journey for many, many people today.
The meals range from $40 per person in economy to $480 for a suites class meal. Most of Singapore airline planes have been grounded since the outbreak. A French company has announced it will build the world's largest insect farm by early 2020. The farm aims to produce 100,000 tons of insect products annually and conserve land while creating 500 jobs. Mounting global demand for food is rapidly using up available land. But one French startup says it has the answer by farming insects indoors. Earlier this month, the insect startup raised $224 million from investors to build an insect farm in northern France. Not content with that, the company has set its sights to expand even further.
We are operating today in Burgundy, the largest mealworm vertical farm in the world, and we are going to build something much bigger in Amiens, north of France, the highest vertical farm in the world, up to 40 meters high, the largest insect farm in the world, and even more importantly, the first carbon negative vertical farm in the world.
At the farm in the eastern French town of Dole, the mealworm's larvae are processed into protein-rich flour and oil used in animal feed. Some of the insects are cultivated to become adult beetles who will reproduce.
There are several products. First one is insect frass, which are used as fertilizers in fields and various types of crops. The second product is our protein-rich flour, a part of the larvae that are processed and manufactured. We produce flour rich in protein. We also have insect oil.
With the motive of needing to do more with less, the company's CEO says they're exploring insect products for human consumption. A 9-day fashion week has kicked off in Beijing's art zone following the easing of coronavirus restrictions. More on this report.
While international fashion weeks have gone fully digital with few physical runways due to COVID-19, China's domestic fashion weeks are blooming with extravagant offline ceremonies. China's Fashion Week commenced this week in the capital, Beijing. Masks were not mandatory in the audience and very few people were seen wearing them. Social distancing measures were not in place during the show and backstage.
Under different lights, the material looks different. You can feel it if you watch the show offline, such as the gloss or if it is light enough to float in the air. But if watching online, you cannot feel these kinds of characteristics.
After the fallout from the coronavirus pandemic hit, the country's fashion industry had a rebound in August. The recovery made China a lone bright spot in the retail world for the global consumer brands like Louis Vuitton.
The data of this year will look better and better monthly. Like what I've said, in August, the domestic consumption on clothing increased 4.4%. I think in terms of fashion industry in the fourth quarter, winter clothing is the most important. The value of it is more important than that of summer.
China has so far recorded more than 85,000 confirmed coronavirus cases, with the death toll crossing 4,500.
And now sports. Mixed martial arts champion Khabib Nurmagomedov has announced his retirement. This followed his win against American Justin Gaethje in the main UFC 254 event. Nurmagomedov defended his UFC lightweight title and remained undefeated in record 29 fights. In a post-fight interview, Nurmagomedov said that he promised his mother this will be his last fight. He thanked all the members of his team and his supporters. The 32-year-old Russian defeated Conor McGregor in Las Vegas, Nevada in a 2018 lightweight title fight. Nurmagomedov was the first Russian and Muslim to win the UFC lightweight championship. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.